Welcome back to, well, not back. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to season 2, episode 12 of Lawfully Chaotic. A little bit, Jason got me all triggered on current events right before backstage before we started. So
what I do, baby.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a rant cam tonight on, so I need something to complain about. Unfortunately, so I apologize for our absence last week. Jason was sick. I've been sick. I'm getting over COVID that I got on vacation. So that
me, it's
awesome.
Allergies. Allergies took me down last week.
Yeah, it's that time of year. So anyway, sorry for the last couple of fragmented weeks. We will get back on track. We actually have a whole bunch of topics lined up. Unfortunately, I did not have time yet to see the D&D movie, but I promise I will before next Thursday. Covanata, yes. Yeah, I went to Vancouver and got Canadian COVID, but it was very polite, so I will say that. I didn't lose my sense of taste, but everything tasted like bacon and syrup. Anyway.
Now you're just being tropey.
Yeah, but everybody loves the Canadians. I mean, they're super polite. Actually, I could not get used to the level of polite there. It was actually freaking me out.
I love Canada. I think it's an amazing country. You'll notice that Barry's not here. Hopefully she'll join us soon.
Yeah.
She had jury duty, so she got trapped in traffic. Hopefully she can join us as soon as she gets settled in once she gets back home. But tonight's a free-for-all.
That is correct. Yeah. So next week I will give my assessment of the movie. I don't want to hear what you guys talked about. I haven't watched the episode that you two did while I was in Canada because I don't want any preconceived, notions going into the movie. So I will see it before next week, and we will get back on track next week.
Movie's good.
What the fuck did I just say, dude?
It's good. Movie's good. Movie's good.
Anyway. Yeah, so tonight is basically a free-for-all, as Jason said. Chat, which currently is 3 miles down. Hey, 3 miles, thanks for joining us.
So
before we even went live again, so you win again.
Yeah.
So throw out some topics.
Actually, he brings up a really good one. I was just reviewing all the Darrington Press releases, and they're releasing 3 new games. They're releasing a card game, they're releasing a board game, and they're releasing their first iteration of, I think it's called Dagger Blade or Dark Blade, which is going to be a new RPG gaming system.
No shit, this is all news to me. I'm still working on getting a copy of oh, for fuck's sake.
Last Gasp?
The Last Gasp, yes, thank you. I'm going to apologize ahead of time for my brain is...
Daggerheart, thank you. That was the
Daggerheart, thank you.
Yeah.
My brain tonight is like basically a bowl of cream of wheat, so I apologize ahead of time. That's very cool. I'm actually working on another Critical Role project. They reached out to me. I don't think I can divulge it yet, but it's pretty fucking cool. Not necessarily what I'm doing, but the thing that I'm doing it for,
right,
is very, very cool. So,
I think there's a lot of cool things going on in the gaming space in general right now. I enjoyed watching a lot of the creators talk about the WotC get together, their creative get together they recently had.
I really am fucking like I have completely been absent for like 2 weeks. I know none of this.
Yeah. So I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, WotC had invited all the major social influencers to get together and talk it out.
In person?
In person at a convention. I think WotC went there with one thought in mind. The influencers weren't buying it, and it went,
I can take a guess on how that went.
I think overall it probably went poorly, but I think they got their one success, and that is they've now created a divisive schism between the creator community. There are those that are like, okay, you don't have to buy into the WotC corporate thing, but this constant So
that's exactly what I would have expected.
Yeah. So it started off as if it was really just going to be a marketing campaign. It was like, hey, we're WotC. This is what we have planned. And this is what you're going to, we don't want your feedback. This is what we have planned. And then the creative community, Destructo Boy and all the other ones that were there were like,
So was it fair to say that that we don't want your feedback, and nor are we prepared to?
Yeah, I think that was kind of the outcome of the creative community event that WotC hosted.
See, to me, just from what you've told me, to me, that says that they still just don't fucking understand what drives them.
Well, it's interesting because D&D 1 is probably unofficially not going to happen.
Really?
Yeah, the narrative is already that they're going to call it D&D 5.5. Shelve. Yeah, because I get, part of what came out of the...
You know what? I'm just going to go into chat tonight and you can just do the show because this is all fucking news to me.
Yeah, and I think the feedback that they were getting from those surveys for the D&D 1 stuff, is, once again, there's a DM shortage, and all 1D&D was doing was giving more and more back to the player community. They were player-centric, player community, not listening to the DMs, and most of your DMs are the creative community, right?
Yeah.
So once again, the tone-deaf nature of everything continues to come out of, the WotC reality. And I think with, Magic the Gathering also kind of getting a little bit of noise with their unhappiness. Yeah, exactly. Chris,
who was leading this? Was Chris Cox there in any?
No, he can't go anywhere. He can't.
Yeah,
I mean, Roll for Combat is basically like stating all over the place that WotC is trying to turn D&D into Zynga, an online,
I know that
online app game that you play.
I know. Well, given this feedback and given what you've just said, it sounds like they are well on their way to that.
Well, and I think they're also beginning to realize that even if they were to walk away from this entire mess that they've created without having properly prepared themselves for it, both within their creator convention that they had with everybody, on top of the failed D&D 1 outcome, the reality is you could go 10 years without not knowing what WotC is.
Yeah.
And D&D 5e will be perfectly fine.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those strange conundrums that a corporation has where they could literally shit down their own throats, right? Swallow a jizz-laden condom. The game will be perfectly fine without them. And that's WotC for you, right? They are so tone deaf.
That is the quote of the year.
Right? They could literally just annihilate their own image.
Yeah.
But D&D has proven time and time and time again, it doesn't matter. It's going to do fine.
And once again, full circle, that just states that they have no fucking clue what runs their machine.
No, it goes back to my original statement. Greed is not capitalism. Greed is corporations being greedy. Capitalism has an actual formula that works.
I understand that. But
it just creates, tone deaf corporations.
I was just going to say the catchphrase of this entire thing that they have created, or the buzzword, is tone deaf, and they are still not getting it.
I will say the one amazing thing that's come out of this is the spontaneity of a couple things. I know, right?
We got to get this done before she logs on.
Yeah, a spontaneity of a couple things that have happened. Number one, the 2-year COVID reality brought a lot of people back to gaming.
Yes.
Gaming is a creative space.
I said many times, one of the best things that ever happened in D&D was COVID.
Well, not just D&D. I would say board games, card games.
But I'm just saying in line with this conversation for WotC, for the game of D&D. it was one of the best things that could have ever happened for it.
I'm agnostic to that.
Okay.
To me, what came out of now this new problem with WotC is not, Pazio and all the other companies saying, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this. What's coming out of it is an entirely new development group of people from all over the place that are now tackling the challenge of let's just create new games, whether it's Critical Role and Darrington Press working together to collude, whether it's Mulligan, who's probably going to work with Darrington Press as well. If you look at how this entire tone-deaf nature of WotC has given us all this amazing opportunity to now start saying, then fuck it, let's just build our own let's build our own game and see what we could come up with, whether it's sci-fi, fantasy, modern, steampunk, cyberpunk. I picked up a copy. I'm warming up to Catalyst Games. I picked up their beginner box set of Shadowrun.
Oh yeah, so you posted that.
And I picked up their beginner box set of BattleTech. And I am not
BattleTech, the role-playing system, or
the tabletop war game.
Oh yeah, I have that too. I have not had a chance to play it yet.
But I didn't pick up those things because I'm nostalgic for them.
No, I know that. I know.
I picked up those things because I really wanted to see what creators are doing to reboot titles with a more kind of understanding of present culture that we're in. If you played BattleTech 35 years ago within our technology culture that we existed in back then, and then you play that game in our current technology culture, a lot of that technology is believable now. It's not really that fantasy based anymore. So it's like, you start, that's why I'm looking forward to things like GURPS getting a reboot.
Absolutely. I am too. I'm still annoyed that they have done this to D&D, and I do not disagree with you. The game will be fine. Okay, we can play 5e right now for the next 50 years. Okay, but what they're doing is they're sour in a way, and I know what you're going to say, but just let me let me finish. They're souring the whole kind of feel of the game by creating this whirlwind of conflict, okay? Which is not to say that you can't just set that aside and still play the game and have fun, all right? So I'm annoyed that they're doing this, and I'm kind of annoyed that they're so fucking short-sighted, is what it is, in my opinion. This whole thing was literally like, the crack in the dam. It was a minuscule drip. And I'm annoyed that they were not smart enough to realize, okay, there's huge potential out there. I really think that that all of this is a reaction to Critical Role's success and all the other creators' success. And we've heard them say it is undervalued and undermonetized. Okay. And they focused on the undermonetized moniker rather than saying, okay, let's get with the program. Let's look at what's going on in the community and let's do this with our property. Okay. Let's evolve our own property before somebody else does. And instead, like I said, they glommed on to the monetization thing that this fucker, Chris Cox, that's his thing. And they don't give a shit. So what happened? The dam fucking broke. And everybody said, fine, fuck you. We'll do our own thing. And I agree. I think it's a good thing. I'm still annoyed that that they did that.
It's interesting because the only time
and I don't know why. It just fucking bothers me. Like nothing, the old saying, like, this is why we can't have nice things. It's like nothing is fucking sacred. How do you fuck up D&D?
But they didn't. And I wouldn't even call what they did souring anything for me because the last time WotC was ever relevant to me.
You have the very distinct skill of being able to separate yourself from the situation in hand, and I say that as a compliment.
No, I get it.
Most people cannot do that.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, especially new players and new DMs, even more so, it does leave a sour taste in the mouth.
I would agree with you that their behavior has definitely soured a lot of potential DMs, and for the last 30 days, there's been a heavy amount of creative community talking about the DM shortage, right? The fact that you can't find a DM, here's why. And, WotC was only ever relevant to me the first time I saw them open up a retail store in a mall, like back in 2005. That's the last time. That was the last time they were relevant to me. After that, I didn't give a shit about WotC. I just played the game. I didn't care where the content came from. I didn't care.
You're right, and I agree.
I didn't care about how it was getting to me.
Yeah.
It was all my choice to make the decision on where I got it from, whether I choose to get it from their sanctioned proverbial kind of like, bosom of the gods.
Yeah.
And therefore you pull it from them. My use of their digital platform is only mandated to me because my 50 players like using it. And the one thing that platform does well is it makes it easier for new players to play, because the point and click feature is not all that dissimilar than if you're at your office and you point and click on OneNote, or you point and click on your intrawebs, or you point and click on your Excel spreadsheets, right? So the behavior pattern is digital based.
Yes.
Okay? So for me, what soured, I'm not soured because I don't give a shit. What I find disappointing about WotC is they haven't taken any of their successes and built off their successes.
Yes.
What they do is a Lucille Ball candy.
Yes.
I forget what they're called, but the
assembly line.
They built a candy assembly line. It's all good. Trust us. Just buy it and eat it. It'll be perfectly fine.
Yes. And you're right. In that, I do agree. It does leave a sour taste in my mouth, but it's more than just the sour taste, because you're right. You can, or you and I at least can, vitamin vegemin. Exactly. There's somebody that knows Lucille Ball. Thank you.
Vitamin vegemin.
It's not so much the sour taste as we've talked about this before, realizing what it could have been, and the fact that they had the means to just blow it up into something fucking phenomenal. And now it's going to take another 10 years or 5 years before somebody else comes along and figures out how to do it better and makes it.
I think the D&D movie is going to make that a lot more abbreviated. I think the D&D movie, without giving spoilers, is actually going to bring in a lot of new players. I think it's also, if you haven't
but again, the crux of the problem is the DMs.
Right, but I will say this
and I know
much.
You and I speak a lot, from our DM hat.
I will say this much. Ginny D finally did one that I liked and watched, because I'm not big on some of the stuff she does, but I am big on, occasionally. Yeah. She did a great thing on how can the D&D movie help you become a DM, and she broke it all down, and she did this great framework analysis of how, if you're looking to be an aspiring DM, this is how you can view the movie, and this is how it can help you understand how to be a good DM, right? Now, the idea of being a good GM, a game master, is more about the challenges of a lot of different things. A place to play. Are they friends, family, or strangers? What are you playing? All of that, and what are the different skill set levels that are at the table, and are they relevant to, what you're trying to do? Now, a really good example is the campaign that Barry is in that wrapped up a weekend and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
Was that the Graying Lands?
Yeah, the Graying Lands that wrapped up after 62 sessions, 2-year campaign, right? We're now starting to talk about what the next campaign is going to be, but it's more of a discussion of thematics. You know, do we want to do sci-fi? Do we want to do steampunk? Do we want to do modern? Do we want to? More and more of the players are possibly thinking something a little less fantasy, something a little bit more nuanced, which then led into the conversation of doing like a anthology, right? So a series of short campaigns allowing the players to create a lot of characters.
I love that idea.
Right. But at the same time, the anthology doesn't need to be a kind of like a siloed thematic. Right. So you could, you know, how cool would it be to start off with a fantasy setting, right? But then when we come back for the next part of our campaign, after the first campaign's done, we come back for the next campaign. It's the descendants of those characters who then play
a multiverse.
Yeah, or even a multiverse, you know, association. So we're more and more leading towards the idea of the anthology campaign because
that's really cool. That's
allows the players to be more creative, create more characters, and you know, just basically giving a lot of maintaining the license of the players to be creative, but still challenging me in the sense that I get to be even more creative with more themes, because really that's the only creativity I get to express.
Yeah,
is the thematics of the game. You know, so you know, if I get to play with all the different themes, that's why I picked up Shadowrun. It's why I picked up BattleTech. You know, I've got GURPS on the shelf. I've got Rifts on the shelf. You know, I've got all these games on my shelf, and you know, they offer me up a lot of opportunity now when it comes to like Turok, from Turok to Star Wars, right? The idea of this anthology theme that just kind of transcends, you know.
You know, it's funny that you say that. It I still find it funny, as much as we disagree on things. It's funny how similar our minds work. I've had a not in the form of a game, but I've had a book idea that I started probably 20 fucking years ago, based on the whole multiverse idea. You know, that everything is connected. What was that movie with Tom Hanks? Atlas. What was it?
Oh, Atlas Shrugged or whatever.
Yeah. It was kind of along those lines, kind of along what you're talking about. But anyway, I digress, because my point is, I think as a game, as a theme to running a campaign or a Cloud Atlas.
Oh, Cloud Atlas. Yeah.
Thank you.
It was based on the book Atlas Shrugged.
Yes.
It was based on the book.
Yeah. But pulling that idea, the Marvel MCU or the multiversal idea, into a series or an anthology of campaigns, I think is absolutely,
and it also
fantastic.
And I was inspired by the Love, Death, Robots thing. You know, I just love that series.
Yes.
And it inspired me to think about possibly, possibly doing an anthology gaming run, you know, so.
Very, very cool. Was the book Cloud Atlas also? Maybe. Ayn Rand was Atlas Shrugged. That may have been something else.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking of the other one I hated, which was Atlas Shrugged.
That was Ayn Rand, yeah.
That was a horrible series. And they turned it into a horrible series of movies later on. I think it became kind of like capitalized by the religious right sort of thing. They used it kind of like, what's his name? I shouldn't even mention it if I can't remember his name, but I'm just always amazed at how members of my generation have grown up to be just complete fucking nutters, you know. and I remember them when they were young, like me when I was young. Yeah. And I think about them now, and I'm like, you know,
and Rand Paul.
You know, it's I think about it's just strange. It's just strange.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt about that.
So,
well, that was a rant. That would be a good lead in to me finally seeing the movie and us talking about that next week. So
yeah, it's a good movie. It's entertaining.
Okay.
And I will say this much.
I am going in with an open mind, which is why I don't want any.
Yeah, I will say this much. The one predication that you had about the linking it to the MCU evolution of style at the end of the movie, you're absolutely right. There's a couple homages that were done very tastefully, and it was kind of fun.
Oh, okay. So stick around.
Yes.
So, okay. Thank you, because that I would
not from a stinger perspective, but just
I know.
In general, the last 20 minutes of the film was amazing.
Okay. All right. Okay. Don't. I'm gonna try to see it this weekend. All right. So
definitely has inspired me to reach into my archives that I have and probably work with some Forgotten Realms stuff that I hadn't worked with for a while. And I would also say that it definitely confirms the fact that their next generational of activity is going to be Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to be working on.
I definitely want to pick up that new version of Shadowrun, not just for nostalgia, although for me that's a big part of it because, as you know, that is my favorite mythos. But I do want to delve into playing that, and also I got to dig up my Torg stuff because that's another one of my favorites, and that was like one of the early forays into kind of multiversal themes coming together.
So one of the things I was really happy to see was not only all the Darrington Press stuff that came out, but lately there's been some, I don't want to call it mainstream media, but like, I don't know, shadow media, I guess, because they live in the shadow of mainstream media. I'm not sure. A lot of conversations in Gizmodo and some of those other spaces talking about how overall we're in a good gaming revolution in general. We're seeing a healthy
absolutely
we're seeing a healthy uptick of playing board games. Like we had Monday night off, we because one of our players was out of town, and we just figured screw it. We played Catan, Settlers of Catan. Had a great 2.5 hour, board game session and making fun of each other. We had a little bit of a potluck and had some food. And, it's always such an important reminder that, the monotony of
digital
portions of our life, monotony of portions of our life become a lot more, informative when we take the time out to play a board game or a card game or any kind of game. Just take that moment out to like chat with each other, play the game, have some discourse, and
so
remind.
We have. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I was done. Go for it.
No, I agree, and I've always said that the RPG&Co. That the &Co. is actually more important than the RPG. We need to do some more. We need to do some board game content once in a while.
Yeah,
even if it's playing a game. So we have the Dad's Club at my son's school. Does a number of different things. There's fantasy football pools and steak dinners and all this stuff. And we have a board game club, and there's a core of us, probably about 6 or 7 people, and we get together maybe once a month and play board games. And man, I've introduced them to a lot of the really deep, heavy games that I have. Cthulhu, Death May Die, the Dark Tower remake by Restoration Games, stuff like that.
It's an amazing board game. That thing goes for $300 on Amazon right now.
Does it?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I think I paid that much for the Kickstarter, but I got everything.
Yeah. It's crazy.
They're already coming out with the next. I already ordered the next major add-on for that.
Well, I think one of the things I really liked about the reinvention and the reboot of Dark Tower was that it was you could play it as a cooperative.
Yes. Well, the cooperative is actually the underlying theme, but behind most board games these days is co-op.
Yeah, which I think is interesting.
It is very interesting because a lot of people like playing games, but they're not as, like my wife, for instance, she likes board games, but not the competitive aspect. So she likes the cooperative games.
Yeah.
What's also great about the co-op games is that you can play by yourself, which sounds like, the lonely nerd in your basement, but it's much more than that, because I always play through games on my own to learn how to play them. That's the best way to learn how to play. And to see, to delve into the game and see what kind of strategies there are and how replayable is it, and whatnot.
What's interesting, because that's a good point, because I was having a conversation with some people recently about playing games in general. And I was listening to a broadcast that was talking about the history and evolution of games.
Oh, cool.
And, there was a really good piece on how a lot of transitional gaming came out of Germany over an extended period of time, where, originally, there she is. Originally, a lot of original gaming. There she is.
Hey, look who it is.
Hi, sorry.
What
Can you
happened?
hear me? Can you
Traffic,
hear me?
huh?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. What's up?
Hi, guys.
Hello. How was jury duty? Did you hang him? Did you fry him?
Fine. Bonding and justice.
Bonding and justice.
Justice for one.
Well, thank God you're here, because we've just been arguing and complaining the whole time.
Arguing?
No, I'm just joking. I'm joking.
There was so I was listening, and now we have the second half of the show we can do with Bear. We could talk about asking Barry some campaign completion questions tonight, because I actually have a lot of questions, and I thought about sending them to her to review, and then I changed my mind. I really wanted them to be a little bit more poignant and personal, because she grew to be one of my favorite characters in general when I've been playing so much over the course of the last 5 to 10 years. And the fact
Sharon or Mira?
Well, column A, column B, a little bit of both. I mean, especially since being such a newer player, it was just so fascinating to watch her evolve, and both as a player and a character.
Yeah.
But what I found interesting about this show that I was watching about the evolution of gaming is that it's not really that new. It's been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. Transitioning out of the Victorian period and, eventually into the, 1900s, and then, turn of the century activity post World War II. For the longest time, it was puzzles. You played puzzles, you played chess, you played checkers, you played backgammon, and all the kind of like ancient civilization head-to-head competitive games.
I love backgammon, by the way. It is a fantastic game.
But after World War II, suddenly you had things like Monopoly, Payday, and some of these other games coming out that allowed 3, 4, 5 people to play against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually you get into the post-1970s, the evolution of Avalon Hills, these drawn-out long games, and
Squad Leader.
Eventually have D&D, and then you eventually have all these other campaign RPG, and now we're living in the renaissance of RPGs, pseudo TTRPG from that aspect. So it's not a new conversation. It's an evolutionary conversation that's just as kind of interesting as watching WotC sink and not swim, and see what comes out of this evolutionary transition. So.
Well, I forgot what the figures are on the board game, specifically board game industry. In like 2019, and don't quote me, because again, this is.
Oh, you're quoting yourself. You're online.
My shoddy memory. Don't hold me. I should say, don't hold me to these figures. But the board game industry, I think in 2019 was like a $3 billion industry a year or something like that. And it was Oh my God, I told you my brain is like cream of wheat tonight. It was forecast that in 10 years, it would be a $30 billion industry.
Right.
And it's funny because, you know, in the old days of Kickstarter, you know, the question was, will we get funded? Nowadays, and obviously I'm saying this through the lens of games mostly.
Right.
Nowadays, it's like, how many X times will we get funded by?
Right.
So,
well, it, you know, brings up the idea of a whole industry that helps people get funded in Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole industry out there to help you do that, you know, which I
I know. But okay, but let's go to I want to hear Sharon's
since we wrapped up the first half of the show just talking about Darrington Press announcing 3 new games. So a new board game, new card game, new RPG release as well. So I think we're going to finally see that first iteration of their new narrative style game. And then we're talking about the creators showcase that took place 2 or 3 weeks ago with WotC hosting all the D&D influencers of YouTube, TikTok, you know, and that whole group, and kind of talking about that, waiting for you. And now that Barry's back, one of the things I really wanted to talk to Barry about, and we talked a little bit about this offline over the last 2 or 3 weeks, wrapping up a campaign, brand new player, brand new character, 2-year campaign. I did show off a little bit of my potty mouth.
Oh, he did.
Oh yeah, he had a pretty epic quote. I believe it was WotC could shit down their I believe it was WotC could shit down their own throats and swallow a jizz-filled condom, and D&D would still survive.
Wow, you're very colorful with your words, Jason.
Something along those lines.
And I hope one of them sees it, just so that they.
Oh God, I fucking hope so.
So they can eternally smile. But with that in mind, I have been given an amazing affirmation of my own skills and the absolute privilege of recently wrapping up a campaign with Sharon. Her druid, her level 20 druid, Mira, concluded a almost 2-year campaign 2 weeks ago. And I've got questions for Cher about this, because we both cried a little bit during that final 2.5-hour session that we had with all the players. And I'll get to my main question, which is, how did you feel about that finality in general, like your epilogue, and how did everybody's epilogues go? But when you thought about playing D&D for the first time, did you ever think that it was going to be on such a long-term campaign? Did that ever come into your mind? Like, what was that journey like getting started?
I honestly,
this is where I get to just sit back and enjoy.
I honestly wanted to have the campaign last forever, to be fair. Because, you know, Critical Role, they played for like...
Doing that stupid thing again?
What?
Is it my headset or your microphone? Is her microphone cutting out? It is?
A little bit, but we can work through it.
All right, Sharon. It was. I wanted to make sure it wasn't my headset.
No.
Okay, good. Keep going. Sorry.
We can hear you. We can hear you well enough, so we'll work through it.
Oh, Robo Voice, really?
Little bit, but we can understand you. It's not like completely garbled, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, with Critical Role, I expected. I had it in my head that like a campaign would last like a couple of years, and I think I was probably being a little bit too optimistic about that, because I wasn't even really sure how long a campaign would last in general, but I only saw from Critical Role that they do like 5 years, you know. So I really bonded with this character, and you know, yeah, it was just a journey, and I'm really happy I got to experience that.
Did you have
Can I ask a question?
Hold on a sec. Did you have an out clause, right? Because did you have an idea of like, okay, you know, in this game, if I don't like it, did you have an out clause in mind just in case, like, didn't like the DM, or I didn't like the other players? Or did you really feel like you were just going to jump in with both feet and really just get that full kind of like immersion effect of the game itself?
No, I was going to jump in with both feet, but like the thing was too is that I was actually very self-conscious playing, especially in our first session. I was super nervous, even like throughout the campaign too. Like I would always think that like I didn't make the right call, or I should have done something better. Yeah, but I mean, all in all, great experiences. Because I mean, like a campaign is played like life in a way, so like the decisions that you make right now can affect the game later on, but whether it's good or bad, just by the roll of the dice.
Did you feel like Critical Role prepared you for all that?
I'm sorry?
Do you feel like Critical Role prepared you for that?
Yes.
And
Bryan, what were you going to say?
Go ahead,
I was going to say, so Jason, you asked, did you expect to be in a campaign that lasted 2 years?
Right.
You guys also said that, you know, there were tears involved. My question is, did you expect to end up so emotionally invested in the character and the game?
No, I don't think so.
That's great.
But I fell in love not with only my characters, but like the other characters involved in the game. Like I wanted so much to learn more about them, and I think the characters were just so fascinating. And then also just getting to see the character art come to life, and like to actually see them, like not only like see it in my head and hear their voices, but like it was so involved, the experience. It was.
When did you fall in love with Mira?
I fell in love with her, I think when we were in the Graying Lands the first time around, and she wanted to make figurines for the group.
Yeah.
Because that was her way of like saying, like, you know, I like you guys. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just want you to know that you're important to me. And then like, you know, that same night when she did hand out the figurines, like everybody just bonded together. It was really lovely.
Yeah, and I think that's what I really felt like the group had finally gelled. And I think that's one of the kind of like fascinating things, the principles of a newer player bringing a lot more creativity when they get over that angst. And that's when I felt like you had finally gotten over all of that kind of like the angst and the you know, a little bit of, you know, am I doing this right? I think that's when I was like, okay, Cher, you got this, because the creative of, you know, that level of creativity lets me know that I've earned your trust. You know, Jason's gonna love this. You know, let me express all this to him and see what he thinks.
Yeah.
And I think he's gonna love it. And to me, that's the affirmation I try to find in my games, because that tells me I've earned players' trust. And I've watched this kind of, you know, reclusive, not quite feeling confident, feeling like, oh, am I doing all the right stuff at the beginning of the campaign, suddenly becoming Mira the Druid, who has now become kind of like the spiritual leader of the, you know, where we had, you know, Abraxas kind of the leader type. I always felt like your character was the spiritual leader.
Yeah, you know? Definitely like a shamanistic type. But like the thing is too with like the figurines, it allowed me to not only reach out and engage as a character, but also as a player, because I sat and reflected on their characters and what they resembled and what it meant to me as the player, and also to what it meant as a, yes, there was Kaladin at the beginning. He dropped out.
One player that had to drop out, but we treated it kind of reverently, and unfortunately on a different timeline that you guys were involved in, it was a little bit murky as to what his role was over in the academy at Uthodurn, over at Uthodurn, you know, and I think that kind of spontaneity of bringing him back into giving it some kind of meat on the bone. But I'd also say the idea of you developing the staff, like the development of your kind of like druidic lineage item from your Kalistar existence, you know.
Where's the fucking staff?
You know what?
You still owe us the goddamn staff.
I know. And that's what I really enjoyed about D&D 2 is that like you could be really just creative and there's no real cap to it. There really isn't. Like if you feel so involved with the character in the world, it starts to get easier for you to get involved and make cool shit out of it. Like I made the figurines because I wanted to reach out to the players because I really liked them and I liked their characters, and like what better way to, have the characters have a chance to interact and be meaningful with each other than by doing that. Because that is literally one of my most memorable nights with the Grey Guardians. Like it was just so fun, and just having that interaction as both player and character made it so meaningful, especially because like the following day was like a great battle. We don't know if we were going to come back alive or whatever.
The Stygian Gate, and I'm wondering if that move, that creativity that Mara did with the figurine kind of brought Frigette more into perspective, like brought Cheesecake out of her kind of shyness.
Mm-hmm.
I think she became very inspired by the fact that you did that. Once again, a player inspiring another player. I thought.
So how did you arrive at the team name?
It was actually with Kaladin at the beginning, and I think we had like a list of names and it was book oriented, but then we thought, okay, well, the Guardians, our team is pretty vague or very gray, morally gray.
It was the morally gray,
yeah. And then
the morally
Guardians
Grady bunch
just like snapped into it, and it made it, it just had the title.
Jason, how many of your games that you run, or I'm sorry, how many of your campaigns go to level 20 and
this is the first one in probably about 5 or 6 years that went to level
20. Okay. And why did this one go to 20?
Because they earned it. Originally, I think it was, they hit the level 19 milestone by taking on the daughter of Asmodeus, and it was an incredible 3-hour fight session. And you saw 2 years of people playing together culminate in their amazing way that they did their characters and did the rounds, and that evolution of watching what they were and what they became, and that outcome of that final encounter with the big bad, which was basically Glacius using the memories of the 9 books to try to remake the world in her own image, and therefore the memory of her own, kind of like descent from her father, and her succumbing to that memory, which ultimately defeated her through the Tempest Sword that Abraxas wielded. They earned it. They earned that level 20 after that battle. And I didn't know if they were going to need it or not. And I didn't care, because it felt like that is exactly what they did became the reason why level 20 is playable.
And I'm not specifically talking about the number 20, level 20. I'm talking about capping the game, a full campaign with a quote unquote end
Right.
Because level 20 is the end, you know.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, it just made sense. It just made sense watching them do that final battle with the big bad, and the way they work so well together, the creativity of it. And it really, I started writing a lot of their finishing epilogue work while, like, literally right after that session, that night, I started writing how I wanted Mira to experience her lineage and her relationship with her mother, the way Abraxas became the Tempest champion of the god Kronos, the way Frigette would lead her people into a new kind of like existence. But the amazing thing was you had two players. What did you think, Cher, about the epilogues? What did you think about listening to Mallory's and then listening to Sam's? You know, what'd you think of that?
I honestly think that the ending to our campaign was so beautiful in its entirety, just because, like, we all met as strangers and we all collectively grew together over those 2 years.
And you're talking about you as players, right?
Yes, well, like in the campaign in general too, but like, and to just hear our finale, to hear like these beautiful, well thought out endings, like I was just bawling the entire time. And then like the fact also, like, there was so much love for the group that, like, even in like their endings, there's still like that connection that their characters reach out to each other still, like, despite the end, you know. And
you're already tearing up just thinking about it.
No, that's microphone glitch. That's microphone glitch. No tears.
But like, it was just, I'm rambling, but it's just beautiful. That whole episode, that is what should describe is what D&D is. It is camaraderie, it's creativity, it's telling a story, and it's reaching to something deeper. And the, like, Mallory's ending, God.
I know, right?
Like,
that was so heavy for me. Like, I had to stop all my thought processes and listen to what she was doing. I was like, holy crap. And then I was floored by Sam's. I'm like, I've got Mira's and Sam's and you know, and then finally Abraxas went last and did his, and Frigette did hers. And I was just so floored by the spontaneity of it all. It was just amazing to me.
And it's like the perfect tribute to their characters too.
Well, that I struggled. The part, I don't know if you noticed it, but that last 5 minutes, the abandoned hilltop table with the awning, and you know, the friends that have been meeting for years and years and years after their successes, but a young mysterious couple buys the nearby seashore property and happens upon this old rundown table with a tattered awning over it and chairs that don't look like they've been sat in for years. And it was that closing chapter for me. It was that finality that I needed to kind of let all the players' characters move on, right? Because technically Abraxas has almost achieved like an immortal status. You know, Mira's become the beacon and is now, you know, growing the new realities of the Kalishtar, you know. But what I loved about what Sam did, and this is where I noticed you got a little teary-eyed, and so did Frigette. Frigette, she really shocked me a bit. But watching Sam talk about how all of you attended his eventual burial, you know, his funeral rites and everything that happened, and how he dedicated certain parts of his capital city to both Frigette and to, you know, the life tree, and like
he got the life tree.
That was just amazing to me, that all that spontaneity suddenly came out, you know. And do you think we get to see Mira again?
I think so. She's going to be around a while.
Yeah, I think we get to see her again in a one shot. I love the idea that we talked about bringing everybody's characters back for like maybe a 2 or 3 part series to kind of give them a little bit of opportunity to close something out that maybe wasn't closed out in the, overall arc of the story.
It's so weird to me because I miss her.
Yeah.
So like I miss her and I miss the group and like it's mind fuckery, but like it touched my heart and my mind. Like all these people created something so beautiful, and it's like I'm about to cry. It's Mike. It really is. Like it's bittersweet, and I totally get why people keep on jumping back into play. It's not just a game. It's not what the D&D movie is. It's very surface level. Once you actually sit down and connect with people.
And what's really interesting, the way the history of this game is going to live on for me, is the first, only the last 15, 20 sessions are done and shared with everybody. There's 35 sessions that no one got to see but ourselves. No one saw it, right? We didn't record it. We didn't save any of it. It was our game that we played together, for almost well over a year before we all agreed, let's, share it with people and see what they think. And then we started our Twitch journey of sharing it with folks on Twitch. But even some of those I don't get to keep because they were being curated by someone else. So the only ones I were able to curate were really like the last 20 or so arced episodes of our journey. And when I curated them, I turned them into a 12-part finale for podcasters, because I really want people to understand, even though you've never played before, that's okay. You don't have to have played before. And I think you're an excellent example of that understanding and how you can still just do the journey and see what comes out of it. To me, the most disheartening thing is when I hear people say, well, I thought about trying it, but I never did. That makes me sad. Why didn't you try it? Let's solve that problem,
Yeah, I'm happy that we're able to share that. And like I said, like I love D&D and I love the community behind it, because there really is a love for everything that comes out of it, and the willingness to share and express that is so amazing. And
have I ruined you for next campaign? Is every campaign gonna have to be like that?
Mayra's just gonna keep on coming back.
I gotta say that I am thoroughly and serious when I say that I am intrigued to watch the shows that you have curated, to go back and watch them.
I would argue that
just watch the last episode.
Yeah, I would go to Spotify and just listen to the last like 10 episodes we did together, because I tried really hard to do a background culmination of a lot of activity that had been going on up to that point, so that you could still get the gist of it.
Yeah. Well, I think we should end on Sharon's sentiment, because it is a really beautiful sentiment, and quite frankly, that is why we all play this game.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's much more to be said tonight.
And if there's anyone out there that's doubtful or maybe a little bit nervous about jumping in, give it a try. I mean, I was scared at first too. And it's not like a fear of, it isn't fear. It's just overcoming that and really experiencing something amazing. You are collaborating and telling a story that's going to live in the heart. And no one can take that away from you. And this is something that you will get to create yourself. So just try it out.
And on that note, I think we will end tonight's show. I don't think it can be said better than that. Sharon, I think you should close us out tonight. I'm gonna forego. I'm
pretty sure she just did.
Pretty much. We can
awesome.
We could skip where we could find us this week. We know where to find us. I'll just say next week
will be find Barry.
Okay.
Where can you find me over on the interwebs at BarryBot on TikTok and all things Instagram and Snapchat Wondrous. Yeah, you could also catch me here on Thursdays with the Lawfully Chaotic crew. Hey. Hopefully there won't be jury duty.
Yeah. Jace, where can we find you?
TTRPG Academy over on my Twitch channel. Just check out the abouts. Come hang out with us in the Discord. Follow me on Instagram. I will be leaving Twitter soon. That place is a cesspool of nightmares.
Yes.
And I plan on just having fun with Instagram. I've been posting studio pics, a lot of the game boards, and a lot of the post.
I have enjoyed your latest
games. So
I've enjoyed your latest Instagram post.
By far, my favorite is the fact that I'm almost up to 400 people on the Discord. And that's the community I'd love to be able to figure out a way to get more and more people involved. 3 miles.
I think everybody is.
I think everybody could.
Yeah. Did you see Walking Down VR Negan? Changing that. Excellent.
You, Bryan?
You can find me at RPG&Co on Instagram, and I'll just leave it at that for tonight. That's the best place to reach out to me. Next week, I finally am going to make time to see the movie, and next week we will be discussing the movie and my views on it and
rant cam,
and how the movie might have implications towards the larger community. So, with that, Sharon.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of Lawfully Chaotic. It is a wondrous journey to step into the world of D&D. There's a lot to explore and a lot to experience. You should give it a try. Maybe grab a dice or two, maybe 14.
Or 400.
Or 400, all shapes and sizes, but don't be drunk. Everyone, thank you for joining us once more. And I hope that, you do get to see the last episode of The Grain Last, not just because it's, it's my show and, Jason, but it really does emulate what D&D is all about. So I invite you to check that out. And yeah, TPK.
Tell stories.
A story.
Play a game.
Be kind.
Be kind. Thanks all.
Good night, everyone.